Welcome to Whiskey and Whitetails, the show for those that hunt with a passion, drink with a purpose. I'm Gus.
I'm Matt.
And this is the fastest intro ever, thanks to VPA.
Thanks for Archery. You need broadheads, go get them. There's vparchery.com. Great stuff.
Happy Memorial Day.
Mintmobile.com/whiskey. We got a great podcast with Adam.
It was awesome.
It's a good thing. We're running out of time, so we got to go fast. We did like a 45-minute carnivore thing, and then we talked about his business after that. So stick around. Enjoy the show. Bye. So I saw Chick-fil-A today. I already sent it to both of you, but it said "Thank you, veterans" on their sign out front.
Yeah,
made me laugh.
That's November. But.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Memorial Day is not for people that are alive. It is a memorial for the ones that did not come home.
Yes.
And so don't think a veteran on Memorial Day. If you want to actually do something, this is what I tell people anyway. Go to a military cemetery and bring a pocket full of pennies and put pennies on all the cemetery graves.
Oh,
there you go.
Absolutely.
And if you want to know what that means, you can look it up, but it means a lot to the family when they go out there and check on the...
That's a very simple way to spend a day reflecting. You can also find any local VFW or other organizations. Many of them have campaigns or efforts where they go put flags out and do similar things at cemeteries. You can volunteer. They're always looking for help.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So that's what you do on Memorial Day. But anyway, we're here with Adam, Grid Square Photo Adam. It's funny. We did a podcast together 3 years ago, 2 years ago.
It was almost 3 years ago.
And I'm trying to remember, there was a reason that it was special. Was it our first
video
podcast? Or
it was, I think it was the first video one, but it was also, I was getting ready to rebrand and I was going to go from just doing photos to doing video also.
Yeah.
And then life happened and that kind of took a crap on life. But things are better now. So it kind of worked out. Yeah. But yeah, so it was kind of special for both of us. You guys had a new thing going on and same here. And, you know, we had just met recently before that too. So it was like, you know, really the first time we had hung out extensively when we did that podcast too. So
I don't think we have just the sip on the mixer I've got. It's on yours, I think, right?
Yeah, it's on mine.
So we'll just the sip. It's
I can still push it.
We brought a 14-year. You brought a 14-year 10 cup.
Yeah, it's
let's get a little splash of that in these glasses. We've been talking about this for a while. Smells nice.
Thank you, sir.
So for people that don't really know about 10 Cup in general, so their bourbons are obviously from Kentucky, but they take their whiskey and they cut it with Rocky Mountain spring water. And I don't know if that's it or if it's a psychological thing or what, but it's by far and away one of my favorites. And
I grew up on Rocky Mountain spring water, so this should be delicious.
Yeah, well, their standard whiskey by itself is already super smooth. Like sometimes you'll get like one that's
you said the S word.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm an amateur, so don't judge me.
No, it's not a judgment. I think you could do better than that word.
Yeah.
So find a replacement. I'm going to make you do it. Find something other than smooth.
What makes it smooth?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's mostly like the finish, right? Because like usually there's like a sharp bite, right? And so on that finish with this one, this one especially, but also on like the regular whiskey, it goes down a lot.
Okay.
It finishes in a way that it doesn't make you feel like you're breathing fire.
There you go.
All right.
You just taught a whiskey class, dude.
Hey, you know what? I can do anything.
You can. All right. I'm gonna give this a sip. The nose is nice.
I get banana notes on this, like with Old Forester.
Can I say it? It's isoamyl acetate, C7H14O2. That's the chemical compound that creates the banana note.
Nice.
All you got to do is memorize that one thing, and then you sound like a pro.
Yeah.
You're like, name another one. I couldn't, but
yeah,
I got that one.
Well, the thing I like, you know, their marketing on this has been really great. So last year they started the 14-year. They call them the 14ers, and I forget the mountain range that they did last year, but this one for year 2 is Quandary Peak.
Mm.
And so all the 14ers in Colorado, that's what they're naming these after every year.
And I also did not grow up on Rocky Mountain spring water.
Could have fooled me, bro.
I was thinking Rocky Mountain, North Carolina.
Oh, yeah, well.
And then I remembered that the Rocky Mountains are an actual thing in Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a whole expanse of them. It's
Yeah.
like bigger than some of the states in the eastern.
There's something about the
Seaboard.
water, the way the continental divide
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah. There's like a whole thing, but it's pretty delicious. The 10-year is also one of my favorites. The rye is, the rye is a rye.
Yeah.
But the 10-year is delicious.
Yeah.
So,
Well, do you like
definitely worth
rye?
not really.
Yeah.
Like they're not my favorite. Like I will drink them, but I might have like one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Versus like their regular whiskey or the 10-year, I could go through half the bottle by myself.
Yeah.
I like rye. I've developed a preference for rye over bourbon in my cocktails also.
For sure.
I asked that because we went to Jack Daniels and did a pick, and we did a barrel proof whiskey, Tennessee whiskey, and we did a barrel proof rye.
Mhm.
And so the ryes that we had, there was 3 of them, and one of them tasted like it finished, and it smelled, finished, and tasted like a bourbon.
Right.
And so they obviously keyed in on that. And I said, well, here's my 2 cents. I like ryes. And if I came to your store and I bought $100 barrel proof rye and it tasted like bourbon, I'd be pretty fucking upset.
Yeah. For sure.
Because I wanted it to taste like a rye.
Absolutely.
Right.
So it's like, but that's one of the things like doing picks that a lot of people don't think about. They're like,
Right.
oh, this tastes good. It's like, yeah, but it's a rye.
Yeah.
It should taste, if you're picking a
It should
rye,
taste
it
like
should
a
taste
rye.
like a rye. That's the only reason I ask, is it's like they're hit or miss, I think, but I love a good rye. I mean, the grassy notes that are on them to me is just, it reminds me of like just being outside. I think it's definitely more of an outside. It's easier to drink in the summer, I think.
Yeah. It's not my go-to. Like if I'm going to sip on something, that's not my go-to, but if I'm in the mood for it, like I really like it. But most time it's just like, like you mentioned, Old Forester, that's a go-to for me. Woodford,
Yeah. If I see a double oak, I'm buying it.
Oh, 100%.
Almost every time. So
Yeah. I've also really gotten into Bullet lately.
that's another one that I'm not a huge fan of, but I know that a lot of people that like Bullet love Bullet.
Yeah, for sure. I've gotten to where like if I do a cocktail and I mix it with Coke or something, like I like that better than with Jack Daniels.
Oh, Coca-Cola. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's obviously just personal preference, but yeah, so I really like them.
So it doesn't have it's not as oily as I wish it was for being 14 years old.
Yeah.
But it does have I see what you mean about the finish. It does go down very easy. And
it's
it
all-
does have
and-
it has a right amount of tannin flavor
Yes.
to it. It's not super over oaked.
and that's the thing for me too, is like I like that flavor, but I don't like it to overpower everything.
Yeah.
And it gives you a very balanced taste, I think. And so the downside is that it's kind of dangerous because it doesn't bite that hard. So then you're like, oh well, I just want to drink more, which is good for them, right? But it's
What's the proof on it?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
I'm gonna guess it's low.
What's your guess? What's your guess?
90.
It is 42% alcohol by volume.
So 84.
84.
So
It's barely
Barely a whiskey.
It's barely whiskey, man. It's like the I don't know what's a good memorial. What's a veteran focused joke? That's like that's almost like
It's light on the right.
it's like
yeah.
It doesn't have any deployments under it. It's still
It's
young.
like-
It's still a baby.
Yeah.
this is
Slick sleeve.
Yeah.
this is the equivalent of the cavalry basically being infantry.
Yeah.
Right.
Cav Scout basically being infantry, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing. I mean, and that's
But
If you
it's
talk
a
to a
product
Cav
of-
Scout though, they think they're the shit.
It's
Yeah,
a
of
product
course
of
they do.
Indiana and Indiana though, so I think it's MGP.
Probably is.
And then are they aging it again, or are they aging it in?
I don't know that 10 Cup is 14 years old. It's hard to say.
Yeah,
There's a
Yeah.
lot of weird things with bottles.
if they are, it's like in the last year or two.
aged 14.
So
It's
I'd
a cool
imagine
concept.
it's
though.
probably sourced.
I was
and they
telling
blend it.
him to me, one of the most impressive things about it is the idea of like the marketing strategy. So you have 14 different peaks, like where you basically have a decade and a half
Yeah.
straight of of releases and marketing already planned. But then I was telling him, like, you could take one of these that you've already done, and if it happens to be a special anniversary about something that happened on that peak, you have another release. So you just push that 14 out even further. It's a really great marketing idea.
Yeah. And even though it's like lighter on the proof, right? I mean, I get it. That's part of it, right? For people.
It's not everything.
But at the same time, if you're just looking for something that tastes great, and you're just going to sit around at a barbecue and you're, you know, sipping on it, then, you know, it's a great option.
It'd take me 6 days to get drunk off that.
Yeah.
I'm not talking shit.
It's okay. You can talk shit.
I like what
that's what we do.
I like the throat punch.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of Army stuff, so a guy I went to Afghanistan with, he just completed officer candidate school.
Nice.
So he was an MI weenie, and now he's a field artillery lieutenant. He went from E7 to 01.
That's interesting. Usually, like
E7 to 01.
Yeah,
that's so interesting that some of those guys,
which is a pay bump.
It's interesting that some of those guys go from one branch to a different branch. Like, you know, for us, usually, like if you were engineer branch, chances were pretty high you were going to go over to engineer.
Yeah.
You know? And so it's always interesting to see those guys.
I think they can just kind of pick. The reason he did it is because I guess field artillery, you can get rank faster. And so he was like, I'll go suck dick, or excuse me, I'll go suck life for a little while. And he's only doing it for retirement money. Because like,
that's fair.
He's like, I want to get everything I can out of the Army and then retire and be able to like live well. Yeah. And so like an 01 retirement is higher than an E7, which is fucking crazy.
Well, there was, whenever I was in, I didn't know her personally, but she had gone up to CSM, so Command Sergeant Major, crossed over to be a warrant officer, was a warrant officer through, I think, CW2, then went to OCS, and I think she retired as a lieutenant colonel or captain or lieutenant colonel, or maybe major, maybe. But she did like almost 30 years, which you would have had to just doing the math, you know. So
he's Pelham's friend.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
I always forget that you knew Pelham.
Well, I didn't know Pelham.
Or your wife did.
My ex-wife did.
Yeah.
So
I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, let's not do that today. Yeah. Let's not tell war stories.
No.
That being said, I will say, you know, since it's Memorial Day, I know the guys that I had that are no longer with us, like, you know, some people kind of shit on people about like making a celebration out of it and being like doing cookouts and this, that, and the other and having a good time.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of bullshit. Yeah. Because the guys that I was with, and
they'd be mad if you weren't.
They would be mad if you were sitting around sulking.
Yeah, 100%.
Like they would be freaking pissed.
They want you to have a party. They want you to have a good time. Just kind of keep in mind the freedom that you have to do it. That's really it.
100%. And like those guys would be shit faced.
Yep.
At 157.
Yeah, they'd already be drunk. Yeah.
Yeah. Do whatever you want to do on Memorial Day. Just think about and make a conscious effort to be the kind of human and the kind of American that would be worth dying for.
Yeah.
And I think you get the point.
Stand the fuck up when they're playing a national anthem.
Yes. And for me personally, like that was one of the things that I struggled through over the last couple of years, was not feeling like feeling to some extent the way that I was doing things with my life was kind of in vain for what they had done.
Yeah.
And kind of that whole, you know, survivor's guilt kind of thing, I guess, in a way. So it's, you know, those guys would roll over in their graves if people were, you know, just kind of shitting on society and America the way that some people do.
Yeah.
You know, just because, you know, they gave everything that they had and died on their feet, you know, for everything that we have available to us.
Yeah. And in the terms of dying, they were the lucky ones. Like, I'm going to die probably in a bed somewhere at an old age. Yep. Or maybe on a motorcycle, something cool like that. But like my chance to die in combat is gone. You know, like I'm not saying that I wish that I had. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I get you.
If you had to pick a death, I mean, that's a Valhalla death right there. I mean, that's what books are written about.
And that's kind of the thing is, you know, that's why so many people struggle when they get out of the military is you literally live on the edge of death in so many cases. And, you know, you hear all those Valhalla stories and it's like, you know, I was in the airborne community, you were too. And it's like, just, people jumping out of airplanes, just that in of itself, even though it's not in combat, like, the amount of adrenaline and everything, like you're inches away from death every time you walk out that door. And, it's,
the only feeling that I've gotten since then that's like very similar is that cave at Rocco's. Like when you walk into that cave, if you look at the ground, it is the ceiling. The ceiling has fallen.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you go in there, there's a chance it'll
fall
fall while you're in there.
Yeah.
And there's something just so fucking peaceful about it. Like you just make the decision, like whatever, if it falls on me, it falls on me. And that may sound stupid to people, but when you're actually in the moment, I mean, it's a little, I took Joe Nichols in there, big ass Joe. He was scared.
Yeah, I bet he was.
He was like, I'm ready to go. And I was like, just stay here for a little bit longer. Just embrace the feeling. Cause it's not like a cave where they sell tickets to it. And, it's literally just a hole in the
100%.
ground.
Well, I used to tell people all the time, because they'd be like, what do you miss the most? And the first thing you always think about is, well, the people. Like, they're like, do you miss the military? And it's like, I don't miss the bullshit. I don't miss the sitting around and waiting, for everything to happen.
I don't miss unpacking Connex boxes just to repack them. I don't miss that.
Or like, packing your rucksack full of shit for a school, and they, buy a packing list, and then they just tell you to dump it out and throw it back in. Like that was annoying to me, because my OCD would just go nuts.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that, we talk about like being on the edge of death, whether it's combat, jumping out of airplanes, whatever. Like, people underestimate how alive you feel in that moment.
Oh yeah.
Like, I will tell you, so I jumped 47 times when I was in the 82nd.
You were also in for a long fucking time.
Well, I was in the 82nd for 8.5 years. And then I went to 100 and worst, but that was kind of by choice, just based on scenario in life at the time. But I will say that like I would get almost like withdrawals in between jumps where, life just got monotonous, whatever. But that chaos, the 4 minutes before, when everybody's standing up, hooking up, and getting ready to jump
Stand up, hook up, shuffle to the door.
Yeah. And when I was a jump master, like the coolest thing was always like whenever you do your clear to the rear, right? So you go and you check the door. Air Force gives you the door, you check the door, and then you hang out of the aircraft. Like you're literally only holding on to the aircraft by
the hand of the bar,
your hands and your static line. And so the wind's blowing you, grabbing your rucksack, pulling you almost out of the aircraft, and then you have to like will yourself back in. If you go out far enough. Some guys just kind of peek their head out, and I went full extension. But and then you come back in, and you see like 64 dudes staring back at you, and their lives are in your hands, right? And you push everybody out the door, and like that 4 seconds when you come out of an aircraft and you're being tossed around like a rag doll, right? And then your chute opens up is one of the absolute most peaceful things I've ever experienced in my life.
I can imagine you go from absolute violence.
Oh, absolutely.
It's got to be an incredibly violent experience to just,
yeah,
that's it.
Because especially when you jump out of a C-17, you're getting all of that jet wash.
Oh, yeah.
And so you're just getting like thrown back. And I mean, your chute hasn't deployed yet. Like you're kind of like in suspension almost. And you're just kind of getting tossed around by the air. And then your chute deploys and you just fall for the next, however long, depending on how high you were jumping. We were usually between 800 and 1,200 feet. And, it's one of those things where it's just, ever since then, that was one of those things that I was just like, I haven't experienced anything like that since then.
Yeah.
And so, the monotony of a normal 9 to 5 or, whatever routines that you have in life, like sometimes it's just.
Pull that up a little bit closer. Just because it was cut now.
Is it better?
Yeah. Sorry. Cool. Yeah. I know what you mean about it's one of those, it's like a conscious decision that you have to make after living a life like that, like that was in the past. It's time to move on, and it's never going to be like that again. And because people, like, we get asked all the time if we're ever going to do a mental health episode. So here you go. But the thing about it is like, I am not a good therapist, but I can tell you what works for me. And that's just, I have removed that part of my life from my head. It's like, and it takes time to do it. But once you do it and you kind of tell yourself, this is the life that I live, because like at work, they're like, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's like, well, I've already done what I wanted to be. I've already done it. So everything from now on, I'm just making money so I can live. That's it.
100%. And
so the monotony of going to work sucks, but unfortunately I have to do it. So I just put it out of my head. Fuck it, we're going to work today, and this is how it's gonna go.
Yeah, and my experience was very similar. I think the thing that I really struggled with was kind of twofold. Was kind of that survivor kind of piece, right? Like some of my best friends, are no longer with us. My cousin was killed in Afghanistan in 2005, and which kind of precipitated me joining. And after the fact, right? Like, so when you're in, right, if you're one of those type A personalities that you're getting after it, like we were, it was, you kind of had your life purpose built into what you were doing, right? And so every day, in one way, shape, form, or fashion, somebody's life was in your hands. I was not a ground pounder. I did the airborne thing, but I was a geospatial guy. Like, I did all the mapping and spatial analysis and trying to figure out like where the enemy was going to go and how they were going to use the terrain to, come at us, and then how we were going to counter that. And, looking at IED analysis and trying to figure out like, trying to come up with some kind of predictive method that was going to say, okay, you can expect something to happen here, or whatever.
Poo sites and everything, which all that stuff, like everybody, there's a role in the military for every slot. And so like the stuff that you were doing, those are the intel briefs that I would give before we leave. And I never did those, the golf stuff. Like I got that from a golf.
Yeah.
And so I'd come in and say, all right, here's the route. This is where we're going today. And these are the places that we need to keep in mind,
and the cool thing was for me, when I was a warrant officer, so I had golfs and then I had 12 Yankees, which are the geospatial engineers. So they worked cohesively for geospatial intelligence.
Were you a Yankee?
I was a Yankee.
Oh, okay.
And then, but as the geo NOIC, I was over both of them. But then layering that on top of the other analysis, that came from signals, human intelligence, whatever.
Yeah.
All source. You combine all that together and say, okay, well, based on all this information that we've gathered through other means, and then layering that on top of the train and being like, yeah, that tracks. And then you go brief it to the commander, right? And then you're sitting in the talk, in Afghanistan or Iraq. My first deployment was in Baghdad, and stuff that you briefed, you're seeing happen in real life. And like, that was pretty rewarding.
Yeah.
But it also gave you a certain level of value and motivation to really dig into the details, and be very attentive to those details, because sometimes they find that random little, goat trail that, they send a platoon worth of dudes to kind of flank you. And if you didn't call it out and we didn't prepare for it, that puts dudes in a really precarious position.
Yeah. You don't know what's there, so you're in trouble.
Yeah. So then, we talked on the last episode about, so now I do that same work on the civilian side, but it's a whole different application of the software, right? So, we're looking at asset management for a city or a town, and not, stuff like bad dudes are going to come and raise hell on a fob, right?
Yeah.
In the middle of Afghanistan. It's, when was the last inspection maintenance done on this, fire hydrant, and that kind of thing. And so like it was really hard for me to transfer from that level to something that's kind of not that important, in the overall scheme of things. It's important to that city, sure. And, it's important for safety of water and public safety and that kind of thing, of course. But, you didn't have that level of purpose built into where you're kind of have that higher purpose, that higher need for what you were doing. And so that was kind of hard for me to resolve. And, I compartmentalized it for a long time. And, it was, it came to a head, whenever I went through my divorce. And it was it was one of those things that kind of was like stuck behind the dam. And then whenever that rock pop, you ever see those like videos where like the rock pops out of the dam and then everything breaks and falls apart. And like, it was kind of that scenario where if I'd have dealt with it, and processed it ahead of time, like it probably would have come out differently. But, so like if there's people out there dealing with that same thing, I will tell you from personal experience, don't do that because it really fucking sucks. But it is what it is. I know there's a lot of people that struggle with a lot of the same things, so I don't feel special about it, but it's, it's important to say that, especially now. I think I saw the statistic about how like males going through therapy has like skyrocketed in the last 2 years just because the stigma has started to kind of fall off.
I believe it.
And, I think it's an important thing to do. I always think of it like maintaining my weapon, right? Like if you don't take care of your weapon, you don't clean it, you don't, keep it oiled, you don't actually go out and fire it and cycle it, you're going to drastically increase the opportunity for a failure. And so when you look at it from that perspective, like it makes a lot more sense. It doesn't have to be always this significant emotional event, I guess. Like my last therapy session, we literally bullshitted for an hour, but we talked about some heavy stuff or whatever, but it wasn't anything where I walked out of it feeling exhausted and hating life. You know what I mean? It was just kind of, you unburden yourself from some things, and it's helpful. But
so I've said it before, like therapy is important, but also I think it's good to know when you can stop.
Oh,
because
100%.
A lot of people get stuck in this therapy thing, and then it's like, well, what else is wrong? What else is wrong? And then you started inventing problems that aren't really there just so you can be in therapy. And for me, like I've backed down significantly. I probably go 4 times a year now, which is plenty, but I go in there and I could just melt down over everything that's bothered me over the last 4 months.
Yeah.
Or where my head is or whatever. And I do it for a different perspective on the way I think.
Yeah.
And it's
100%.
And it's a safe space. There's things that are in my head that I don't want to tell my wife. I don't want to tell my friends. I don't want,
Well, I think there's something also to be said about having the right therapist. Like I've gone 100%. Through a couple, and if you go to somebody that's just going to sit there and let you talk for an hour, it's not the right one.
No.
Like you need somebody that's going to, when you say something, they're going to be like, well, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And they're going to challenge your belief system on how you believe that thought or that value or whatever. Like they have to challenge you, like you said, with new perspectives that are going to allow you to grow, because you can't grow in anything unless you go outside of your comfort zone. Right. But if you're just comfortable talking about something, right, and they don't either dig deeper or charge you with thinking about it in a different direction, then you don't have the opportunity to explore that and grow.
The other thing too is you can say things that are pretty benign, like to you, because like I've talked about stuff in therapy and brought something up, and my therapist, this is the only time he's ever done this, but he was like, stand up. And I stood up and he's like, do you mind if I give you a hug? And I was like, for fucking what?
Yeah.
And he's like, the thing you just told me is like the fact that you don't even see it. He's like, it doesn't bother you. He's like, and he gave me a hug and was like, I just want you to know you're a good person. And I was like, fuck, man. And then I started thinking about it and I was like, I see what he's saying now, because it was like a culmination of things. And I just said something in passing about the way I was raised, something growing up, just something like, oh, and did this one time, and I didn't realize how fucked up it was because I guess I've just pushed it down for so many years.
Yeah.
But it's like, now that I've been able to process it and think about it, it's actually changed. I texted him the next day or the day I left. And I was like, I told him I don't want to say it, but I told him what the problem was. And he even verified, he was like, you are not that person, and it's like,
yeah, I remember that.
And to me, that was very important to hear him say, because I've known him my whole life and he knows the person I'm talking about.
Well, I'll tell my story a little bit more over the last couple of years with the goal of 2 things. Two things that I learned initially that kept me going just in general, right? So right about the time my divorce, right? Like I was in a very, very dark place, was not career wise, doing what I wanted to do. I didn't feel fulfilled. I didn't feel like I had any purpose. Didn't feel like I was a good dad. Didn't feel like a good husband. Just overall felt like a shitty person, right? Even though I wasn't necessarily doing anything bad, I did some bad things, but that doesn't make you a bad person, right? Like everybody does shitty stuff, but usually it's a reflection of that internal turmoil that you have with yourself.
Yeah.
And part of it was my wife put up with it, right? Like she fought back. I'm not saying that she just rolled over and took it, but like it was one of the, and it wasn't ever anything abusive or anything like that. It was just, I was a miserable freaking person and I was negative about everything. It sucked to be around me. Right. And, she finally got to a point where she just couldn't deal with it anymore. And that was part of why I hadn't freaking fixed it, was because it's shitty work. Right.
Yeah.
So when she finally said she was done, like it was like that damn breaking, and freaking all that shit that I had compartmentalized and shoved down and didn't deal with, didn't process, didn't, do the work on, finally came to a head. And like I had a full out mental breakdown. Like I was done. I was like, okay, well, you don't want me around, problem solved. Like I was like on my way to go and do it and be done. Like I felt like everybody else was better without me. I didn't need to be here. I was miserable. Like, what's the fucking point? And luckily, I'm not going to go through the series of events, but ultimately, like, ended up checking myself in the hospital, went and got it taken care of. Well, as part of that whole process, right? Like, you go and see a therapist. As part of that intake. And when she talked to me, like, I was like, all right, if I'm going to get better, like I have to, kind of like we were talking about with the carnivore thing, you either have to be in or you have to be, or you're out.
Right.
Like there's no freaking in between. Like you have to be devoted to, like, this is it. I'm committed to it. I'm going to do the work. And I just started listing shit. And I probably talked for 15, 20 minutes, just talking about all the different types of events and shit from my life.
Just
and
tell her you pick.
She sits there and she goes, I'm going to book you for 3 hours tomorrow. She's like, it's going to be heavy, but we need to go through a lot of this stuff. Everything from shit from my childhood, stuff from the military, stuff after the fact. And so we go through that thing, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to detail everything, but there were two parts of it. The first one that was the most important to me was really, she said, when you die, what is it that you want to happen? Like, what kind of impact do you want that to have? Like, if you're not here anymore? And like, I was between thinking about my kids, my family, whatever. I was like, ultimately, I just want to be remembered, right? Like, I want to have made an impact that people think about me in a good way. Like, I want to be remembered in that kind of light. And she kind of took everything in, right? And it was really awkward for like 90 seconds where she didn't say anything. And then she goes, well, here's the thing with that is you can sit back and you can let life happen to you, or you can go out and live a life worth remembering. And it's simple, right? It's super simple. But when you're in that moment where you're completely broken down to the bare bone minimum of your existence, and it was kind of profound in that moment to me, because it's like, well, I can either play that victim card and sit here and wait for everything to just fucking punch me in the face, or I can go punch life in the face.
Yes. I had the same conversation.
And so that was the biggest thing for me. And now my ADHD brain is going.
Well, like, not just to like go back to that, not to cut you off there, but so having that conversation, like, basically my therapist was like, you're gonna die eventually.
Yeah.
So like, why are you trying to rush it? Like, why are you even thinking about it? Yeah. He's like, if it's something in your life, it's because you're sad. He's like, that's you. You are sad. You are angry. It's like, you can get over that. And so he told me this quote, and I remember it, and I say it all the time because I love it. But he's like, one thing that people fail to realize about life is that we're all going to die. And it's like, so you can do whatever you want to do and live a very sheltered life and be careful, or and this is my favorite quote, I will not tiptoe through life to arrive safely at death.
Yes. Love that.
And I
quote.
think about that all the time. It's like, I'm a yes man. Somebody
Yeah.
want to do something, I'm probably going to say yes. Like if I have the ability to do it. I mean, it proves I haven't been home in months.
Yeah,
It's true.
I've gone almost every weekend
Yeah.
because I think
the last time I saw you was the last time you were home.
that's what I mean. It's
Yeah.
just, I'm here for work Monday through Thursday. And then I usually take Friday off and I'm gone, and I've been
Yeah.
traveling, and I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way, but I mean, I do enjoy being home. I like, I'm going to be home for the next couple months and I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
But it's like, if I'm gonna stick around, which I've decided that I am, you
Yeah.
know, and I think that that's a decision that people have to make on their own.
Yeah.
But it's like, if I'm gonna be here, I'm gonna have fun. As you
Agree.
said, I'm gonna punch life in the face. I'm gonna
Same
take
way.
everything I can from this life.
Yeah. And that was the thing, for me, and my therapist that I have now, she's great. Like, she challenges thought processes all the time and has taught me other things. And that was kind of the same thing I told her during my intake, because when I moved to North Carolina, I had to switch. So the person that I had during my breakdown and everything is like a different person than I have now.
Yeah.
So she didn't come in during that part. She saw me still dealing with some stuff, but I was getting into that maintenance phase. And, I always told her, I was like, I always felt like I was meant for something bigger, but I just never could figure out what the fuck it was. And so, like, whether it's the military, I did music for a while, went to Berkeley College of Music, like, tried that game. That's the whole reason why I went to Nashville, like, why I went to 101st, because it's right outside of Nashville. And then, now with photography, trying to always elevate my game, because, like, I feel like there's something up there that I'm supposed to do. And, we go back to the Memorial Day thing. And part of that whole thing for me was I felt like I was just falling short of what other people had sacrificed.
Yeah.
And didn't feel like I was capable. But the more that you focus on fixing some of those broken parts, you get to go and rebuild them bigger and stronger.
Yeah.
Right. And now that I've done that work, and I mean, the last year of my life has been the best one I can remember in recent times.
Yeah.
Like,
Good.
I've been able to focus on my kids. I've been able to focus on what I need. Got my dream job. My photography is starting to kick off, like really take off. And, it's.
You sound a lot happier too, I will say.
Thank you. Well, it's
like over the years I've known you, you do seem different.
Yeah.
Because you did disappear for like a year and a half.
I did. I dropped off, dude. I mean, like, I dropped off everything.
Yeah.
So after that whole debacle, right? We split up in like end of April time frame. I think it was 2022. Yeah, 2022. We're coming up on 2 years now. Just over 2 years. I went on a trip to Montana for a wildlife trip, photography trip, and came back and sold all my stuff. I was done. Like, I quit. I was just like, my passion wasn't in it. Like, I just, this was probably a year after we'd done the last podcast. And so, I mean, I just completely given up on everything. Like, and even though in my head, I was like, okay, I've got to stay around. I want to get better, trying to do the work, figure all that stuff out. I was not in a place where I could put any energy into anything else. So it was literally survival mode. And that was one of the things that my current therapist talked about, was that, in rewiring your brain after all of that, right? So you go through this catalytic event that catapults you into trying to do the work and trying to fix those things, right? You have to figure out all those triggers from your childhood, whether that's, like, for me, it's abandonment. And, I always felt like I had to perform in order to get any kind of recognition and love from people. So I became very much a people pleaser. But so when I would come through for people, like, that made me feel rewarded. So that was like my dopamine response was, whether it was in the military, coming through at the 11th hour and with a great product, or, jumping through hoops to make it to a kid's baseball game, like, whatever it was, like, that was what I felt like I had to do in order to receive any kind of positive energy from other people. But all of that stuff is all survival instincts. And so what ends up happening for a lot of people is when they get miserable, a lot of times it's really just them doing whatever they can do to survive. And their brain, their body goes into fight or flight mode, and they 100% do whatever they need to do just to survive. And that version of people, they get put in a box and are miserable and hate life and are snippy and assholes at the grocery store or whatever, is usually a response to just trying to survive life.
Yeah.
And until you acknowledge and work through that stuff and put better tools in your tool belt to fix them, you know, you can't get to a point where you start thriving. And like, I finally feel like after the last 2 years of putting in the work, like I'm starting to see the fruits of that labor. So it's a hard fucking road, but it's a road that it's the road less traveled. You know, we always hear that story. It's a road less traveled, but it's all worth the while.
Yeah.
So, but we could go on and on about this all day, but I've got plenty of stories.
Why don't we switch over to so all three of us are carnivore.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. And I'm gonna check I'll make sure the settings are still good on this thing real quick and grab some water. Does anybody need anything?
No, I'm good.
Good.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Tell about your carnivore journey.
Sure. So obviously we've been talking for a while. I know that you guys have been doing that a little bit longer than me. So when I moved to Charlotte back last September.
Mm-hmm.
And recently I found out, based on my poorly calibrated scale situation, that I was actually between like 280 and 285 in September versus I thought I was like 260, 265. And I really just focused on just eating better.
Yeah.
Like not eating fast food as much. I mean, I still did it, but like I kept track of macros to an extent, trying to eat more protein, less carbs, just in general. And so I think really started doing that like November timeframe, and got to a point where when I started carnivore first week of May, so actually it was the last week of April, I would have been about 260. So I would have lost about 25 pounds at that point.
Right.
So I started carnivore, you know, Matt put a fire under my ass about it, like the whole half in, half out thing.
Yeah.
And which I needed, right? Like,
I know you needed it. That's why I said it.
Yeah.
I'm that hard friend.
Yeah. Appreciate you, bro. Those are my favorites,
Yeah.
right? Because like they don't bullshit it. They don't tiptoe. They're like, listen, fucker, like get your shit together.
Dude, I've lost many friends over the years for trying to be helpful, and it wasn't perceived that way.
He sent me a text message that said, "I appendix carried today, you fat cow."
I did.
Like,
that's how I got
right.
Gus on it.
That's awesome. And you know, so I decided, because you told me, you were like, just do 15 days, 15 to 30 days strict.
I tell everybody, if you can't do 15 days, you're not a man, period.
Yeah.
Just
or
woman or whatever you want to be.
Which I took that as a challenge to my masculinity.
Yeah.
And I said, fuck you.
That's why I said it.
And then
it works.
And then I started the next day.
Because that's how I did it. I told myself, if you can't just eat meat for 15 days, you're a fucking pussy. And
which the thing for me is I love meat, right? So like I really don't eat I didn't eat a lot of veggies anyway. I'd eat Brussels sprouts, zucchini.
I ate them because I thought you were
asparagus.
supposed to. I mean, that's really it. I've never really been a huge vegetable fan.
I liked them just because, I mean, I actually just liked them.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it wasn't like I felt like I had to eat them, but I did enjoy eating them with like chicken or steak or whatever. But it wasn't like a significant thing to pull it out of my diet. The biggest thing for me was like cutting out sodas, cutting out energy drinks, really regulating a lot of that stuff. And so, but like I went strict for 15 days and the first week sucked. It was pretty terrible.
Yeah.
Really the first 5 days. So the first day was easy, right? I got up, ate some bacon, eggs.
Just a normal day.
Normal day, right? Because you still got a bunch of freaking glucose in your body, glycogen, everything's in your muscles. Like you've got stores already built up.
Yep.
Day 2, the sugar cravings went insane.
Yeah.
Like it was, your insulin's coming down. It's just like alcohol, right? Like in the sense that your tolerance builds up. Well, your body is saying, okay, well, you're always bringing in this much sugar, and it brings the insulin up. Well, then in the withdrawal process, when you cut the sugar out, your body then does a reverse, signal saying, well, I've got all this freaking insulin. You better put some sugar in it.
Yeah.
Or else, because it's out of balance now. Well, every time I saw a vending machine, somebody in the office with Jolly Ranchers on their, or, a soda, like I would start salivating.
Yeah.
Like it was just like my body was just telling me, like, you have to have this to survive. And I was like, no, we're not doing that. Yep. Like there was one day I just went home and was like, where I just had to get away from it. So that was day 2 and 3. Day 4, I really hit the wall where my energy went completely in the crapper. I had like nothing. I had nothing in the tank. And I still got up, worked out, whatever. My workout was garbage. Like I felt terrible. And I actually I went and played pickleball that night. And I think I texted Matt afterwards, and on my way home. So you play for like 2 hours, right? It's like this, you kind of cycle through almost like a tournament or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then I was like so exhausted afterwards. Like normally I'm tired, but I still have some in the tank, mm-hmm. right? But like I went home, I was ready to pass out for a year. Like I was exhausted. But the crazy thing to me, and I say this word kind of gingerly, like I felt like this whole depressive feeling. And I don't mean depressive like suicidal or clinical depressed. It was just this really crappy mood where you just feel meh.
Yeah.
Like you didn't care about anything. Yeah. I didn't like, you're not happy or excited about anything. Right. You just feel.
Well, the sugar provides a dopamine hit as well. So you're ridding your body of that constant like hit of dopamine, that happy that you get from food. And so you're not only are you physically, chemically in your body making the adjustments in terms of your sugar level and insulin and the impact that's having, but your brain chemistry is getting all
your reward system is screwed up. So I was always a food reward person. Like, okay, I ate clean this week. I can go to Carmelo's and get a carrot cake.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's like I can have, I don't drink sugary drinks. I haven't really had sodas in forever, but it's like I could go and get a real cocktail that's got sugar in it. Like I haven't had a cocktail in a while. I'll go get an old fashioned, and so getting rid of all of that was definitely hard, but it's just crazy to me now because I'm 6 months in now, and it's like I guess I work in an office too. I see the candy on people's desks. I don't think anything of it.
To it the same
I don't even notice it. Yeah. It doesn't. I have zero cravings.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing.
So that was like day 4 and 5. 5, my mood. That was when my mood really skyrocketed. Was day 5.
Yeah.
So day 5, I got to where like I wouldn't say I had a whole lot of energy. Like my body was still tired and fatigued, but my mood was like through the roof. Like, not like stuff that would annoy me. I was just like, whatever.
Yeah.
I was just overly in a good mood. And that night, like I hung out with some friends, which I think it was a Thursday or Friday. Hung out with some friends that night until like midnight. And I had a deadline for noon the next day to finish up some photos from when I went and did the SOK summit, the couple weeks before. So I wasn't tired, like mentally. So I was like, well, I'm going to go finish those, so I still probably had a third of them that needed to be edited, and I needed to build all the galleries out and be ready to deliver them at noon. And I got home at 12, worked until 4:30 on all that, had all that done at 4:30, went and laid down. And I set my alarm for 9, thinking, okay, well, I got to get up, make sure everything's good, prep the emails, and schedule those so that they would go out at noon. when I tell you that I woke up, I mean, I woke up like a train was running through
Yeah.
my apartment. Like I woke up 2 minutes before my alarm went off. Like we were getting bombed in Fallujah. Like I
It is
just
so exciting.
like I woke
I
up.
love it so
Like
much.
I woke up and it was like I was 100% awake. There was no grogginess.
Yep.
There was no whatever you want to call it. Like I was like up. I mean, 4.5 hours of sleep. I was ready to freaking go. Like my brain was like, all right, let's do this shit. Got up, took 2 steps, and I was like, whoa. So just like we were just saying about like the military, right? Like my feet were jacked, like all jacked up. Like I played soccer for 20 years. I jumped out of airplanes, carrying 50 pounds worth of shit on your back and walking countless miles. Like my feet, normally when I wake up in the morning, my feet will hurt.
Yeah.
And I'll have to stand there for a couple of seconds until they adjust.
Get some blood flowing.
And then like when I start walking, I'm fine. I got up, started walking, and realized my feet didn't hurt.
Yeah.
Now, yes, there was some discomfort. Like it wasn't like an immediate, like no pain whatsoever, but it was at least 50-60% less than what it was. Like to where it wasn't like knives going up through my feet.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like that was the crazy thing for me, was as that inflammation starts to go away from your body and your body starts like dumping toxins and everything out, you know, it was crazy to me, just like how that process, your body knows what to freaking do.
I gotta go move my ribs. I forgot.
Oh,
sorry. Keep going.
Godspeed, sir.
Good luck
doing the Lord's work.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that was the biggest impact, or the biggest benefit so far for me. And I explained to some people that I was working with this week that the weight loss has been nice.
Yeah.
But in my list of top
life issues or whatever,
like issues that this diet and this way of eating has addressed for me, the weight loss is like not even in the top 3 or 5.
Yeah. 100%.
Like my sleep has improved. I do like to sleep.
Yeah,
So
same.
I do have a bad habit of staying up late. So I've not been giving myself the amount of sleep I should be getting, but sleep has improved. My anxiety, like you talked about, has improved, where I'm not stressed. I don't find myself getting as worked up over things as quickly and as easily.
Yeah.
And then the the reduced inflammation and lack of pain, you know, I've dealt with a couple of different things since I was in high school. I had surgery on my shoulder when I was in high school because I dislocated it so bad and tore everything up inside of it. So I've had arthritis in that shoulder, my right shoulder, for a long time. I think it is what led to my biceps issue I was having. All that shit was gone after the first week and a half.
Yeah.
And I didn't notice it until I went to pick up my daughter, who's in kindergarten. She's not heavy, but she's not light either, you know?
Yeah.
Pick her up and there was no pain.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit. Like I could not remember the last time I had picked her up and it not been painful.
Yeah.
And then I gave one of the kids a piggyback ride the other day up the stairs and my knee didn't hurt.
Yeah.
And I was like, I looked at my wife and I was like, I don't know the last time I've done something like that and not felt pain. It's so used to it. It's just that when you don't have it, it's like, holy shit, that's wow. And so that was, but on the flip side, I've been doing this for a little while now. And I was telling you guys earlier, I did allow myself to have like a sweet potato and some bread yesterday, which is far more sugar and carbohydrates than I've typically allowed myself to have at this point. And just that little bit, I woke up this morning and some of that soreness, that inflammation was back, and I could tell. It's just weird how susceptible and how in tune you become to how your body's responding to those things the longer you do this.
Yeah, and that's kind of been the thing for me. So I did 3 weeks 100% strict.
Yeah.
And this last week, I've been traveling for work, and you know, I've made it kind of a standard for myself, like to go back and forth for the girls, like when they have major events or sports games, whatever. You know, they live here in Charleston still, so I mean it's 3 hours each way. So I'm putting between 30 and 40 hours a month going back and forth.
Yeah.
You know, and so because I'm not sitting at home all the time.
Sure.
It's a lot easier when you're at home and you're cooking for yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. You got to plan ahead. And
But then like if you're, haven't eaten all day, we were talking about that as a byproduct too, is your body decides that, oh, we've got fat stores, we're good, and then it doesn't send those leptin signals that you're hungry.
Right.
Leptin's actually for you to be full, I guess. But you know what I'm saying. But it's not sending the hunger signals.
Right.
So but if you've gone all day without eating because your body didn't tell you were hungry, and then
you do get hungry,
and then you're 2 hours into this drive and you're like, man, freaking McDonald's sounds real good right now. Sometimes compromises are made, and I ended up having to kind of choose the lesser of two evils in those situations and try to make the best of it. But that was just this week. Still haven't had a soda. That's good. Not a full soda. Like I've had we were talking about cocktails and stuff like that, but not like I wasn't going and downing two or three 20-ounce sodas a day.
Right.
So I'll usually stop at like a Texas Roadhouse or something, like if I'm traveling, but I haven't done it, but Dr. Chaffee, one of the things he does is because he travels a lot. He's a social media guy, but he was saying that Wendy's actually has real 100% beef.
Yeah.
So you can go to Wendy's and just get like 4 or 5 patties and bacon, and it's like $12.
Yeah.
And so he's like that. He will do that pretty often.
Yeah.
But like for me, I'll hit like I said, like a Texas, a Longhorn Steakhouse or something.
Yeah.
I'll do that because usually every town's going to have one of those in it.
Sure.
And I just go right up to the bar, get a steak, medium rare, and eat it.
Yeah.
But one thing that I'm going kind of back in time here, but I think day 8 is when everybody is kind of like, all right, yeah, this is working.
It starts kicking into overdrive. And that was what it was for me. Like going into the second week, I had all the energy, like my body. I mean, so like I said, I'm right under a month right now. And just in this month, I'm 25 pounds lighter.
Nice.
So I would have been 260 at the beginning of this month. I was 234 yesterday.
Nice, man.
So, which is great. But like we talked about, part of that is the diuretic effect. Like you're drinking a lot more water. Like your body's not holding on to as much water because you're actually giving it water.
Sure.
Part of it's the salt intake too. Like if your body, people have this misrepresentation in some ways that salt is what causes you to hold water weight. Yeah. And yes, there is some of that, but a lot of that is the conjunction with sugar. Yeah. It's almost always, anytime your body is not operating the way that it's supposed to, it's usually not one thing, it's a conjunction of things.
What's the arterial thing? Like, so for the plaque and the buildup in your arteries, I mean, that is, if you eat a high fat diet with carbs and sugar, you're going to clog your arteries, you're going to have a heart attack.
Yeah.
But if you're not using that bonder of the carbs and sugar, which I am not, it just isn't. The cholesterol is cholesterol. It's all the same. Yeah. So there's no good or bad cholesterol. What it is the vehicle that's driving it. But it's really your triglycerides need to be low.
Yeah.
And only reason triglycerides are high is if you're overeating.
Right.
And that's flat out simple.
So
for me, the mental health side of it.
Yeah.
I told Andy I came home this morning from the gym, and I told her this morning. I said the best part about this is the mental health aspect. And I don't mean just because it makes you feel good, but I can put those Origin jeans that were tight as shit on me.
Yeah.
They look like skinny jeans. Dude, I swim in them. They're too baggy for me now. I've lost that much I've lost 40 pounds, and I think a lot of it was in my thighs.
Yeah.
but I've for like probably the first time, and I'm still not super lean, but for the first time in my life, I can look at myself in the mirror and not be like, ugh.
Yeah.
And to me, I got dressed this morning. I put my cool Air Force Ones on. I put this shirt on. The shirt was tighter on my biceps, and as I'm putting clothes on, I'm just smiling, like, look at me.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's not like I tried hard to get here.
Yeah.
I changed what I eat. I'm still working out pretty much the same as I always have.
Well, I mean, like for me, the thing that put me over was, I have a very scientific approach to everything, right? Yeah. I mean, that's just the way my brain's wired. Even when it comes to creative stuff, I have to have a process. And so for me, it's data in, data out, right? So I did all this research on this stuff over the last several months, even before we started talking about it, before I even committed to it. So it was like, talking about the sodium thing. Yes, your body holds on to water if your sodium is high. That is correct. However, in conjunction with how much sugar you have in there, and that the responses that are a part of that with your insulin and everything else also causes you to hold on to more water.
Yeah.
So like, yes, sodium helps you hold on to water, but it holds on to what you need. And then the other processes hold on to a whole bunch of excess.
And a lot of
that's
that
what you
is
start
your
flushing
inflammation
off.
too.
Yeah.
And so it's like when I lost 10 pounds pretty fast,
Yeah,
and it's like
same.
water weight. I think it was inflammation weight.
Oh
honestly.
yeah.
I think I lost 10 pounds of inflammation.
I lost 12 pounds the first week.
Yeah. It comes off so fast. And like, I'm pretty stagnant right now, but I'm also putting on muscle like it's my job, right? I don't even know how I'm doing it, but I mean, I'm working, like I said, I haven't really changed my workout routine, but
well, and then you were talking about the plaque buildup. Like, you know, everybody's like, oh, your cholesterol's high, your cholesterol's high. And it's like, yeah, you have to pay attention to that. But like, what is
I don't think you do.
But what is, well, I say you have to pay attention to it.
If you're on a standard American diet, yeah, I think you have to pay attention.
However, a lot of people don't understand what cholesterol is, right?
Yeah.
So cholesterol, it has, you know, you guys have talked about it. One, your body needs cholesterol to produce testosterone.
Your brain is 70% fueled by cholesterol. Like you have, that's why we have mental clarity now. Like you think better because like we're actually using and the other thing too, your body makes it. So if you don't have enough, your body's going to make it anyway.
Well, your body needs cholesterol to rebuild cells,
right?
For one, right? And then on the other side, as that cholesterol is rolling through your body, it rebuilds your arteries. So like it acts like a putty, right? And so if you have cracks in your arterial walls, whatever, it's supposed to go in just like, you know, whenever your blood coagulates, whenever you skin your knee, right? And it hardens up. Same concept. It goes and fills that crack and then it goes through the healing process and then just becomes part of the artery. But like you were saying with triglycerides, which all triglycerides are, is excess calories generally from sugar and carbohydrates.
Right.
Well, that enzymatic process that happens between those two things, between your cholesterol and your triglycerides, causes it to harden in the bloodstream instead of
calcifies.
Instead of it going and naturally filling those holes and then hardening.
Right.
It causes it to harden faster. Gotcha. So yes, cholesterol is important if you're on a normal diet because of those things. Because if you're taking in a bunch of carbs and sugars, you know, if you're keeping those things low, your cholesterol is also not going to be as much of an issue. So, but when you're in carnivore, when you're not eating any of those things, it's not an issue. It's just, you know.
And it's also like one thing that's fascinating about cholesterol is the test that they actually measure it in your blood is the test is wrong. There's also zero true connection between heart disease and cholesterol. There is not. And people say there is, and I challenge you to find a real study that shows it. But the thing that's weird about cholesterol is it is a lipid, and we all know what water and oil do. They don't mix.
Right.
So your blood is water-based. So when you have fat, cholesterol, lipids floating around in there. So when you take a small sample of your blood, that doesn't really, it's not really an accurate test.
And here's the other thing to consider too, right? Like from a scientific point of view, one, from type of test to type of test, right? You could have different standards for that different test. They may be testing your blood, right? But if it's a different method or whatever, that high value could be different between those two.
And the only one I think holds weight is the LDL particle test,
right?
Which is really hard to get done.
And the other thing with that is like, just like with any kind of scientific testing, right? Those values are set based on certain parameters.
And a lot of it's your genetic makeup.
Well, I'm saying from having like a standard, like a, you know, a health system set standard.
Yeah.
And that's based on the standard American diet. So yeah, you might have high cholesterol present in your body, but that's based on the standards that were decided upon. Like this amount is high, right?
And none of the standards that are set by US.
It's not made for carnivore, so it's going to say like,
all the standards that are set all promote foods and eating styles that ultimately keep us sicker and lend to more dependency on pharmaceuticals and the medical system, the healthcare system.
Yeah. And so, I mean, like, so to me, I look at it from that lens of, you know, what are those parameters that are put in on deciding what is high, right? Is based on that standard American diet. So yeah, that the answer would be correct. Like your cholesterol would be high,
Mhm.
assuming that you're eating what they've been peddling to us for 40, 50 years
Right.
on what was considered to be the diet everybody should be eating.
So I wanted to look it up before I said it, and I'm not even sure that this is a valid point. It's just something that I find interesting. So when you look at cholesterol, like what your level is supposed to be,
Yeah.
do you know what it is? Like what's considered high? It's like
Not off the top of
it's
my
like
head.
230, I think,
Yeah.
is high.
Okay. Yeah.
So they want you around 200.
Yeah.
Did you know a newborn baby is 158? So they want you to have the same amount of cholesterol hormone builder as a newborn baby. Like that's, to me, I find that fascinating. I don't know that it really means anything.
Well,
But-
it's usually concentration based, right?
I just think it's weird that they want it. And I've said the conspiracy, my thought on it is that they were like, we can't have all these violent men roaming around the country. We need docile. So how do we do it? What makes a man? Testosterone. Okay. So what causes testosterone? Cholesterol. Let's tell them that cholesterol is bad. And so that's why I think if you look around, people say all the time, there's no men anymore. We've had this conversation 50 times on the podcast. But I really think that that's part of it.
It's been an epidemic where, I was diagnosed with it. Like I had literally my testosterone levels like 183.
Mine was 70.
Yeah. It's insanely
Which
low.
is, I think women have that much.
Yeah. But like, it's interesting that you were saying that about having the same as babies. I mean, it is important to note that that's based on a concentration still like that, that
the 1.8 millimole or whatever.
Yeah, that number is based on the proportion of it in the blood, based on like the volume of blood too. So like babies obviously have less blood in their body than we do, as I'm told. But that's interesting that they want us to have that lower concentration, when in reality cholesterol is a significant builder towards your cells.
You have to have it. And even if you eat straight vegan diet and you don't have any dietary cholesterol, you still can have high cholesterol because your body makes it.
Yeah.
And if it's something your body makes, I don't understand how you can demonize it. But like eating this way, I don't even tell people anymore because I'm so sick of the conversation.
Well, see, for me, like instead of looking at it as like, oh, I'm a carnivore, right? Like I looked at it from the scientific point of view of, let's just see what happens.
That's the reason I did it too.
Because
I did not expect the results I got.
Right. And to me, like my initial instinct, like just like with any scientist or somebody from a scientific background of some sort, like you generally question everything.
Oh yeah.
It's like, okay, prove it.
Well, because like we did keto and I don't remember ever being like, oh yeah, this is changing my life.
Yeah.
You?
No, not like no.
And I also get that it's not for everybody.
100%. Yeah.
And I will never, just like political views, I will never try to sway somebody one way or the other. I'll tell you what I believe if you ask me.
Yeah.
And
I'm not trying to talk people into it. It's just when people say that they're curious about it and they want to try it, like then you have put a target on your head. Like I'm going to come after you. But just a random dude walking around, I have plenty of friends that don't even know. I just don't tell them.
But it's like, I'll use politics. I know we don't normally talk about politics, but like politics as a general cursor, right? Like, I don't care how people vote, like as far as being people, right? I care that you vote, but I care that you do your own research, and I care that you vote based on how you believe and who you believe lines up the most with you.
Yeah, not because the news or the media told you to
like
vote.
do your own independent research for
whatever
yourself.
you decide on.
The information is out there.
Yeah,
but I'm the same way about carnivore or whatever diet, keto, veganism, whatever. Like, I don't care that you do that. Like, I don't think it changes you as a person. Like, I think you're trying to do whatever is best for you as a human being and trying to figure out your way in life, right?
I think a lot of the vegan stuff is morality based, which is I hate to even say that word, but
for some people, sure. Like,
because I love animals. I mean,
I do too.
And and then their billboard, like, where do you draw the line? And then they show like a cow, a chicken, a pig, and then a dog.
Like,
it's like right there. That's
exactly right where you drew it. You drew the line right where I would draw it. You did a good job.
Yeah. So,
I don't like you're proving my point.
I agree.
But like having that conversation with people, for me, it's just like, I don't want to sway you one way or the other.
Yeah.
I'll try to give you a different perspective or something to think about. But unless you ask me for advice on how to do it, like, it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
And You know?
I also don't really care. I want everyone to be happy and healthy. And if
100%.
whatever you're doing makes you happy and healthy,
Like,
then
People ask me, and I tell them low carb, high cholesterol.
I just
Yeah.
say, I've been saying 0 carb because then
Yeah.
they think that it's keto.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a good way to do it.
And for some reason, I mean, it is
Because
in
keto
some,
is acceptable somehow.
yeah, and
carnivore
I don't
isn't.
I don't know
It's
how
It's literally the same
It
diet.
It's the
includes
same
vegetables.
I know, but it's like
yeah, it's a stricter version of keto diet.
I do keto, but I don't do carbs.
Yeah.
And then it's
Yeah.
What?
And
oh yeah, my brother did keto. Yeah, it's a
and I
good
think
one.
it's just more palatable because it's been around longer, maybe. Or
Maybe.
like as
Probably.
far as like what you would, I guess, what some people consider fad diets or whatever.
Well, I
Like,
think because it's if you say the word carb, like I'm low carb or 0 carb, like I think people are on board with that. They're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that shit's bad for you, and then we leave it there, but they don't understand that vegetables are carbohydrates,
Right.
But
Right.
you-
Because they're just dumb.
you know, the thing that helps the conversation with me with other people, right? Like specifically like vegans or vegetarians. Like, again, like I don't care what you do what's best for you, right? But you know, there's always like the back and forth between, oh, well, my way is the right way, my way is the right way,
Yeah.
whatever. The thing that's always helped me is like, can we all just agree that like eating less processed shit has helped everybody?
I would also never tell you that I'm doing it the right way. I
Yeah,
don't think
same.
that my political, religious, or food beliefs are right.
Right.
I think they're just what I
But I
believe.
also think
Exactly.
that this, and I've seen this from not just from me, but from how other people are doing this successfully, is the way animal-based or carnivore works for you isn't the same as for me.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Some people can include like a lot of different varieties of dairy and see the same results and see the same. Some people can't.
Some
handle
people
the
have to cut
dairy at
that
all.
out too.
Some
Yeah.
people can do a handful of berries and some low glycemic and fruits, and some people can't at
Yeah,
all. Like
I can-
there's one guy that he admits, I can't do berries. I can't do
like you haven't
a mango
done any of
because
that, right?
who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've started doing blackberries, blueberries.
Are you eating a lot, or
cucumbers
you're
and
having like
tomatoes.
a handful?
It's like a handful, like a cup or less total volume of whatever it is, and it's maybe one meal a day, if not every other day. So it's
Yeah.
not frequently at all.
Right.
But like some people can add the honey and other stuff in there intermittently. Some people do it every day. Like it's not going to be the same for everybody.
I look at it
Yeah.
as though I can do the honey. I can do an apple. Like I bought 2 apples. I still have one in there. I ate one like 2 days ago, and I bought a couple kiwis. So like I can eat a kiwi this morning. I mean, I wouldn't today because I had 2 beers. So like
Yeah.
I'm done. But like I can have a kiwi, and it's not a big deal. But like if I were to sit down and have a sandwich,
Yeah.
I'd be fucked.
Right.
Tomorrow I would feel it.
And since I've started adding it back in, I actually started adding those things, just cucumbers and tomatoes, because they're technically fruits that are low glycemic index, and then blackberries, blueberries, and that's pretty much it. And I would typically have it right before or after a workout.
Yeah.
Did you quit your supplements?
No, I'm still taking a fish oil. I'm still taking the like a nose to tail beef organ type thing, and I'm taking collagen as well because, well, I'm obviously eating fatty meat. Collagen is important, and I don't think
Is
feel
that
like
for
I get enough of it.
nail health?
It's also for my knees and my shoulders.
Because I think I should probably that's the only thing I've noticed is my toenails don't look as strong as they're still fine, but
Take a collagen.
yeah,
supplement.
I think I might. But I got to figure out what I'm not getting from a cow first.
Fair
Like there's
enough.
something that I'm not, because it is, if you eat nose to tail, supposedly
It's supposed to be.
Yeah.
it's supposed to be everything you need. So I need to figure out what in a cow has collagen, and I need to start eating that. I think
Maybe-
as opposed to taking a
Maybe
supplement.
it's too much of something.
It could be too much of something. It could also be, I think that I'm in starvation mode, and I think I've been in starvation mode for a while because I really don't eat that much. I mean, I
Yeah.
never did before. I was a 1 meal a day kind of person anyway.
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed by people who've been doing this much longer. I've sort of watched some of their older videos and then looked at their videos now, and there seems to be this period during the first year, and it seems to vary for everyone, where they hit a spurt where they're just not eating very much. But then you look at these guys who've been doing this for years, and they're eating like 2 pounds of steak a day, and
Yeah.
I'm like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't even look at that and without
Yeah.
feeling nauseated.
Like Chaffee eats 3 ribeyes a
Chaffee
day.
and the other guy, Dr. Baker.
Yeah,
I think
Baker
these
too.
giant fucking steaks like once a day, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
That would last me like 3 days right now.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
Jordan,
what I
like Jordan Peterson's daughter said he
Yeah.
eats like 3 pounds of meat a day.
Yeah, that's just too
and
much
he
for
just
me
eats
right now.
straight hamburger. Well, I will tell you that I've kind of made the switch now. Like I could definitely eat more now. And so I'm 6 months in, if that tells you
Yeah.
anything.
I got it.
Well, and I think it's one of those things like
Like I will eat that entire rack of ribs.
Yeah. Well, your body, like obviously your body is still adapting over time.
For
still.
sure.
So, and
For
I
sure.
think too, like, I think it has a lot to do with like how much body fat somebody has on them. So, like, whenever
sure.
you're, because your body is not going to put signals out for food during that certain period until it gets down to a body fat level where it's like, okay, our stores are getting low. We need to readjust.
Yeah.
And then you start feeling hungry and you
Yeah.
start eating more.
Right.
But like for those people that are carb adapted, when they burn out of carbs, their body's using that as fuel. So as soon as they burn out of carbs, their body's like, okay, time for more food.
Yeah.
But if you've got a whole bunch of body fat, your body's just going to be like, okay, we're good for a while.
The other thing I've learned too is
So-
like doing this way and talking about it, people kind of zone out. I bet you we
Yeah.
have no one listening anymore.
Oh, I guarantee. At the end of the day, the goal,
If you're still listening, leave a comment.
yeah, at the end of the day, the goal really is it's just more data, right?
Yeah.
And that was kind of my goal with the experiment was just see what happens.
Yeah.
You know, it's data for me to what works for me, what doesn't. But for other people that are thinking about it, it's just more information to go off of.
Yeah.
Like if you choose to do it, great. If you don't, that's cool too.
Yeah, if you
know?
think it's crazy, that's fine. We don't care.
Yeah.
But if you were thinking about it, I mean, I think we've talked about it ad nauseum.
We've mentioned other people who are documenting this process as well.
Yeah.
So go follow them.
and-
They'll
Yeah.
tell you if
Yeah.
you need to know.
And again, this is not medical advice. Like
So
so
I'm not a doctor. I can't give medical advice.
So go to
Allegedly,
like,
this is healthy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Allegedly. We can
I can
tell you
tell
our
you
experience, but we can't tell you what your
All
experience
three of
would
us
be.
have drastically changed, and I'm the furthest one in. And I mean, I hear it all the time now.
Yeah.
Like I saw, like when I was at that car show, dude, there was a guy that I met him one time, and I walked up, he didn't know who I was, and I explained. He was like, "Weren't you fat?" And
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, I was fat."
I saw somebody yesterday I hadn't seen since before I started. Goodbye, phone. And I saw them and they were like, holy shit, dude. Like looks like you lost weight. And I was like, I have. I'm like 50 pounds lighter than I was this time last year.
Yeah.
You know,
I could see it on him because like we've been sitting doing podcasts together for a long time, and like I can see that your stomach doesn't.
Yeah, it's not
Stick
so
out
bad.
like
I
it
got a
used
couple.
to.
If I get the right light angle and
Dude, if I suck
yeah,
it in,
do
I
a
have
little bit. I
this-
got some abs.
I you can see like
so
the
this
top
shirt,
of my abs.
this shirt 6 months ago was tight on me.
Yeah,
That's
the
the
one
craziest
thing.
thing is the
That's
clothes.
the most frustrating part right now is that I am squarely between a large and extra large. Like
Yes.
I've had Jessica go buy me a couple random branded like larges, and one fits good and one's like still a little like
Yeah.
inappropriate for me to wear. But then like a lot of my extra large t-shirts are just baggy and they're
Yeah.
loose on the biceps, and I'm like it's frustrating. But
Well,
So as the
Gene-
guy that's newest, do you ever see yourself quitting?
Adjusting, but not fully quitting. Like I like fruits a lot.
Yeah.
I think
once
so-
you're 4 months in, it's okay. The problem is
So-
if you start doing it now, those sugar cravings are going to hit, and you won't be
Yeah.
able to control it.
right. And so my goal is to get down to my goal weight. So my goal weight's 185.
That's one way to do it. Yeah,
That's what I weighed when I was in Afghanistan. I
weighed 208. I am 12 pounds from abs.
Yeah.
Which is fucking crazy.
yeah. So when I was in Afghanistan in 14, I was 187 pounds. I was running 5 miles in sub 40. I was benching low 300s, squatting in the 4s. So like in my brain, I didn't have an 8-pack or anything, but I was in really good shape. I was, slim, athletic looking. That was what I consider for me like peak body composition
Mhm.
and performance level.
So once you get there, you can have a strawberry.
Yeah. So like I'm not gonna adjust to like an animal based until that point.
Yeah.
So
What about you guys?
quitting wise, no. I think experimenting over time with where those limits lie. I have no desire, no
Yeah.
interest in adding vegetables back. Protein, high fat. Like
If you read about the that's one thing, Mr. Scientific Fact. If you research what vegetables
I already
have
did.
in them, they're just like animals. Like they
Yeah.
have claws and teeth. They're just not claws and
carnivore
teeth.
code goes deep into
Yeah, it's a great-
all
they're
of that.
it's a
Vegetables
great
are
book.
honestly not good for you.
Yeah.
A lot of them are straight poison.
Yeah.
And like, my favorite one is the spinach one. People that eat the spinach is high in calcium, and people that eat a lot of spinach are usually low in calcium because the spinach will pull calcium out of your body as it processes.
Yeah.
Like I mean, these are all proven facts.
Well, the thing that was always curious to me about that, and we're gonna have to switch topics because people are probably lost. But
bored out of their fucking.
Well,
but
they already left.
But the,
It's just
but
for
this
us.
is
So when we switch topics, it'll just be us talking.
But for me, the thing out of that carnivore code that was super interesting was the closest animal to us is monkeys, right? Like, so chimpanzees, primates.
I thought it was jellyfish.
Whatever.
Shit, probably.
I mean, for most people in their brains nowadays,
I know you can't eat primate brains because if they have prions on it, you'll get it.
Yeah.
Where any other animal we can. So that's probably correct.
Well, the thing is that if you look at the intestinal system of most primates, right? Like, it's longer than ours and designed because in order to pull the nutrients from any kind of vegetable, it has to ferment in your gut. So like, so when they're sitting there and you see like a baboon at the zoo and he's got this huge gut, he's bloated because it's literally fermenting in his body in order for it to do.
And it's breaking down, and that's how he's eating it. And the other thing too is most herbivores have chambered stomachs, which we do not have.
Right. And ours is shorter, which is designed to take, animal meats and process that faster and get whatever you don't need out faster. And so, like, I've noticed I'm probably using 90 some percent of the food that I eat, and versus like having a whole bunch of fiber and all this crap that your body doesn't digest.
It turns out fiber is a lie too, which is very depressing because I've been taking fiber supplements for my entire life.
Well, fiber makes sense if you're eating other crap because then you need that to
move the stuff out.
Right.
It acts as a broom in your intestines.
Yeah.
But if you don't need that,
colon
then
broom.
why do you need it?
When was the last time you had to wipe more than twice?
April.
It's like,
I don't know. I mean, I always give a few extras to make sure. So it's always more than twice for me.
Yeah.
The poops have been.
I'm a flushable.
Well, there's certainly fewer and far between. That's for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to answer my will I ever quit. So I will never quit. I'm going to do this forever. But what I am going to do is cycle on and off strict. So I will allow myself to eat a half a piece of sourdough bread maybe one day, or I will allow myself to have some fruits. But at least 6 months out of the year, I will be strict, just meat, because that's where I feel the best.
I've considered doing that, the cycling thing based on seasons. So
100%.
That's
like, exactly
if
what
I'm going to allow
do.
myself to have berries. Okay, when are those berries typically?
When my tomatoes
bioavailable.
Yeah.
Like when are the tomatoes and cucumbers typically biologically and naturally? When would they have been available? And I know we're going to argue about, well, tomatoes wouldn't have existed because whatever. I don't. Fuck off. You get what I'm saying? And trying to make an effort to do that. So in the cold winter months when berries are probably not that readily available, I will probably not have them as often.
Yeah. I'll also have fresh venison. So it's
right.
I'll also say too, like, none of us are performance athletes either. So like,
no, I'm not doing this for that reason.
Right. Exactly. So like, that comes to a point too. Like if that's something, I wouldn't say that I want to be some kind of athlete or anything, but if I start to see like drops in the gym and stuff like that, that maybe, okay, look for animal based or like fruits and stuff that are going to give you that boost, those short-term carbs that are going to put that glycogen in your muscle stream, into your muscles to be able to get that performance, then sure. But
well, that's going
to be a big thing to base it on, is like, because your body is generally will burn through the glycogen in your muscles in 30 minutes.
The problem is you with all this overthinking is you start rationalizing eating things you shouldn't be eating. And I'm telling you, because I've done it. Like, I'm grandpa carnivore over here, but I'm telling you that, like, I'll burn 1,000 calories in a workout. Not every time, but like, I'll go in there and just crush it. Like, my goal is to hit 1,000 before I leave.
Yeah.
Because normally I'm around 600 to 800. So it's not hard for me to hit 1,000.
Yeah.
And then I will, on the way home, tell myself, because you did that, you can have ice cream tonight.
Yeah.
And I'll have 4 scoops of ice cream, just and soak it in
and that's
honey,
and
it's like,
what I'm talking about.
I know, but like, I'm just telling you, that's where you'll start rationalizing things.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And you have to stay on top of yourself with it, because you can fall off so fast.
Yeah, your brain will start screwing with you.
Yeah, the stricter.
But luckily, you feel like asshole the next day, so you don't do it as often.
That's the thing for me. That's why it's like, okay, what's the right amount?
Right.
That when I go and work out,
Yep.
if I eat some fruit, like if I eat like a fruit and yogurt or whatever, after I work out. Like, what's going to give me that boost that's going to get me just to level, right? So that my body has what it needs versus, I'm going to go and eat a tub of Ben and Jerry's and watch
stick of butter
and watch No Strings Attached or something, some whatever. But like, I mean, that's the other consideration I think I would have in the future on adjusting those things. But
all right, I think we've crushed the carnivore topic. Is there anything else that you want anybody to know? That we'll have your stuff in the comments section, and
yeah, I mean, we can talk about the photography stuff for a minute. I mean, I know that was kind of the point of coming on here, but we got sidetracked on other stuff and Memorial Day and all that. But we were talking earlier about the mental health stuff, and I did want to like point out too, like, my ex-wife decided for us to leave, that, or to split up. Like, I think it was the right call. Like, she was definitely in the right headspace. Like, I don't have ill will towards her.
Sure.
Like, I know some people will hear that and be like, well, that's kind of a shitty thing to do when somebody's like in a shitty mental space, but like, she made the right call. Right. And we both, we co-parent really well. We've been doing great. Like, it is what it is. Right. It was a shitty situation, a shitty decision to make in a shitty situation.
Yeah.
But, so after all that, right. I told you guys, I brought up that I'd quit on all that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess it was almost a year later. So really I'm right at a year back.
Okay.
I was gone out of photography and everything for about a year. Like, I bought one camera and one lens. Well, I only have one camera still, but I got one lens and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to get back into it for me. Right. I'm going to get back into doing the wildlife stuff. Just kind of, whether it's a mental health thing, whatever, like, I just started getting, as I rebuilt some of the other stuff that had kind of gone to shit.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, okay, this was something that I enjoy. I started getting my shutter finger started getting itchy, and it was like, I want to get back into it, but I want to do it the right way. I want to do it because I want to do it. I don't give a shit about the likes, shares, follows. Who fucking cares? Like, I don't care about that. I just want to do it because I like it. And over the next like 3 or 4 months after that, it just kind of took off in its own way. And I got back to photographing dogs. I've worked with Southern Oak Kennels, their East Campus here in Charleston for the last 3 or 4 years. And he was like, hey, do you want to go down to Louisiana and photograph a hunt and stuff? And I was like, hell yeah, I do. Like, that'd be sweet. So went down there, and I think it was the last day we were there, and I rented a lens. I rented a 70-200, and
it's my favorite lens.
It's awesome. And I rented it and was taking pictures, got a bunch of great pictures of the dogs working. And we were sitting there, birds were working behind us. They're like, I think it was gray ducks. They were circling around us. And I looked over, and Rip is the dog that's down there with Alex Bell at Hackberry Plantation down there in Louisiana. And he's looking up through a hole in the blind, and the sun is like coming through directly on him, just shines him up by himself. And you can see like the birds that we had stacked over on one side. You can, and I was like, I've got to get this picture, like, have to get this picture. So I'm like curled up like in a ball on the muddy floor of this freaking blind, like tucked up against, as far away from the dog as I could get so that I could get the shot, and got the shot. And like, it was kind of a cataclysmic moment where I looked back at it through the viewfinder, and I was like, we back, baby. Like, and it seems stupid, sure, but like, it's like in that moment, it's like in my brain, it just clicked. And it's like, this is what I need to do. And like before I quit, I part of my problem was I was trying to do too much. And
Yeah.
I was trying to work with different brands and try to get like just there's 1,000,001 outdoor photographers now. So like I was trying to do too many different pieces of that puzzle. And there's always there's a quote that always sticks out to me about, be a small fish in a big pond or a big fish in a small pond.
Mhm.
And I started looking at like the really great dog photographers. And there's a lot of them out there, but the number is drastically smaller than outdoor general photographer, especially in the hunting world.
Sure.
And I started thinking, I was like, okay, I need to niche down to just doing dogs. And so, like I said, that was like late November. Revamped my entire website, which I didn't mind. It wasn't active anymore anyway. Revamped my website, started figuring out like the processes for doing like sessions and that kind of thing. I'm like, okay, well now I live in Charlotte, right? There's not a lot of sporting dog people.
Not a lot of water dogs in Charlotte.
Right. And it's like I was like, how can I also expand that in a way that allows me to photograph dogs that are not gun dogs? So I started working through all those processes, found some like dog photographers that are more those pet family dog photographers, and like kind of finding the styles that I liked and trying to mimic those and learning from them in different ways and figuring out how I can get into that niche as well. So like in January, I launched my new website. So I do, my goal is to create a premium family and sporting dog experience for customers that end to end, builds that rapport with a customer where they don't just feel like, hey, here's my money.
Mhm.
And then 2 weeks later after the session, they get an email with a gallery and then they don't hear from me again.
Right.
Like, I started doing studio photography, so like incorporating flash, and I've actually started doing it with outdoor dogs too. Like this morning, um, I had my flash and everything set up, but it's outdoors. There's no backdrop or anything other than like natural, like greenery background, and incorporating that, and it gives a whole different dynamic to it that is less seen in the industry.
Mhm.
So it makes it a lot more unique and gives me a little bit of an edge in that department and being able to figure that out. And it's a lot of fun. It's been an interesting route to go down. It's another rabbit hole as far as flash photography goes. It's been really good though, but also like the cool like the tree catching pictures.
Yeah.
There's a guy in Europe that does it, and like that's all he does is the tree. Generally, it's like what he's known for. And
I feel like those are good ways to go viral too, because they always have like really funny faces.
Yeah. And so so that's what I've really been trying to focus on. And then like I said, the experience. I use Pixie Set for my website, my studio management, so my customer relationship management software. So I keep track of all my contacts, my messages back and forth with them, automating like quote and invoices and booking sessions and stuff like that. It's a really great platform. And then I send them their gallery. It's digital, but what I started doing was um, live deliveries. And a lot of cases, like especially when people send dogs to Southern Oak to get trained,
Mhm.
they don't live here, right?
Right.
So I started doing, like Google Meets or Zoom calls with them, and the email goes to them at the same time that the session is supposed to start. So
Okay.
I walk them through like, hey, here's your pictures, here's the ones that are available to you. Here's how you go and order prints through the store. Here's how you if there were additional photos that you didn't prepay for, like here's how you can get those, like, and kind of walk them through the interface and like get that immediate feedback. And it's gotten really good
It's smart too, because you're showing them exactly everything at the right time, and that way they're not looking at it before the Zoom.
Yeah. So smart. Like they see it with me whenever we're going through it, and then they have access to it immediately after.
Yes.
But it's been a really good response because, you know, it adds that personal touch.
Yeah.
And like, if you're, you know, I've used this phrase with a couple of people before, that like premium images, you know, require and deserve a premium experience.
Yeah.
And if you're a photographer that's trying to charge more money or trying to make a living, you know, that's noble, and, you know, more power to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but if you're just going and taking pictures and just sending them to them without building a relationship, well, what's the incentive for them to come back to you?
Yeah.
And so from a business standpoint, you know, it seems to be working. You know, a lot of people, I mean, I just had a repeat customer this morning, and they've been huge supporters of me and over the last year. And it's just one of those things, is like, you know, how do you create that value? And that's what I'm trying to do is, you know, I want to be top of mind, of course, like any other business when it comes to dog photography. But at the same time, you know, it's got to be valuable to people. They're spending their, especially in this economy, you know, something that's, you know, can be considered superfluous. You know, what's the value that you're bringing to the table that makes yours worth it?
Right.
You know, and you might be the person that takes the best photos.
Yeah.
But, you know, do you want those customers to one off, or do you want to make friends out of them? And those are the people that are going to go and be the staunch supporters of you moving forward. And they're going to go tell their friends and, you know, do something different. You know, what's going to make your situation unique? And that's what I've been trying to do, is stand out, not just in the photography side, but also in the business side, and building that relationship. And, you know, and from a business standpoint, it's probably the best thing I could have done. I've done better as a business this year than I probably have made probably in all the other years of doing photography combined.
It's amazing about business when you find your thing.
Yeah.
And you like click in, and then it's just like,
well, and you know, we talk about passion, right? And I've been reading this book by Cal Newport called So Good They Can't Ignore You. And he talks about that, about like, people are like, oh, well, just do what you're passionate about. And it's kind of like, it's kind of one of those things that it's more the process. It's not the passion thing that creates the passion. Like, it's what it does for you, what it fulfills you, what about it, like being able to get that incredible shot that nobody else can get, or whatever it is, you know, that passion is important, but it can't be the sole focus.
I also think that when people say that, or the if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, I think that's just something sad people tell themselves. I don't really actually believe that shit at all.
Well, I'm one of those people that, like, you know, to me, I really enjoy and you know, I really enjoy the feedback that I get from people after the fact.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, well, you captured this so well, or like, this is something I've never seen before, or whatever, you know. And, you know, it's all been done, right? Like, I'm not doing something that anybody's never done, you know, but
it also shows you what to focus on. Feedback is like, it's invaluable.
Oh, 100%.
Like, we don't get it. And I hate it.
Yeah.
Because there's no way we're doing everything right.
But I always tell people, like, if you're going to do a side hustle or anything like that, I mean, it does have to be something that you give a shit about, or else you're just not going to do it. And it's
like podcasting. It's like, you know, you sit down to do an hour podcast and it might end up being 3. If that bothers you, it's like, you know, podcasting isn't for you.
Yeah.
But it's also to put out a podcast every week. For a lot of people, that's probably really fucking hard.
Yeah.
But like, we actually enjoy it. It's
absolutely.
We don't really talk that much unless we're doing podcast stuff. I mean, it's just, we both have full lives.
Yeah, for sure.
But we get to sit down. I mean, how many people can sit down with their best friend and have an hour-long conversation every week, you know?
Yeah.
Well, and, you know, with business too, I think it is important that you have to enjoy it, you know, or else, you know,
what's the point of doing it?
Yeah. What's the point of doing it? Right. And, I've always loved working with dogs, like training my own dogs and that kind of thing. And so it's a cool way to capture some of those events that, when somebody sends their dog to go get trained, they don't see that process. They don't
Right.
see the results
Yeah.
right away. And being able to capture it from the photographer side is like a really, really cool way to create those memories that
Yeah.
they can print and put on their wall, and just like they do their kids. And a lot of them, they love their dogs just as much or more than their kids
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah,
So
100%.
I've seen that for sure.
yeah, so it's been really cool. And I will say, from the creative standpoint, niching down has opened up more opportunities because I didn't have to focus on all these different aspects.
Right.
Mhm.
Like, I'll still do events. Like, if somebody asks me, "Hey, will you do this Delta waterfowl event?" Like, yeah, sure. Or whatever the case may be. Or some, I did some uh product work for our mutual friend Ashley, for her business. I'll do stuff like that, but it's not my main focus. It's not even stuff I have listed on my website.
Sure.
I tell people, because people like my pictures, and I'm like, listen, I know how to take pictures of whiskey bottles. That's literally it. You don't want me to. I mean, that's not true. I can take pictures of other stuff, but like, I am not for hire for photography.
Right.
And the videography thing is annoying too, because my editing. It's only so many times that you make a video for someone and you have it like pretty much completed and you send it to them and they're like, can we use a different song,
different video,
and then you're like, fuck,
different clip, or
you understand I timed the
timestamped
video, like
everything.
everything is linked to the beats of the song, so like that's literally starting over. And so that happens to you once or twice, and you just lose the desire to do it.
And that was another thing for me too.
We also got raped by a friend. Yeah,
that's
so
never
it's
good.
like
that's one thing, is I will probably never offer videography as a service.
I would,
because
we don't anymore,
for two reasons. Like, going back to the niching down thing, you can be the big fish in a small pond and be really good at photography, and people call you for that.
Yeah.
Like, and the amount of time that it takes to edit video and be really good at it is its own freaking thing. That's a rabbit hole. It's going to take forever to really get good. And then you don't focus on your photography.
And the other thing is you can fuck up video really easily.
Oh yeah.
Where like on photography, I mean, you're in focus and you're pushing the button. I mean, there's not, you don't ever come back and go, shit, I didn't hit record.
Well, the art,
or I missed this thing. It's like in video, we've done video stuff before, and I get back to edit and the mics weren't hooked up, no audio.
Yeah.
And it's like, I could hear it when I started, but it's like 30 seconds in, the mic shut off.
Well,
and you don't know that. And you just wasted 2 hours filming something with no audio. It's like, I mean, I've got tons of stuff upstairs that I can't use because it's all, Yeah.
Well, and then like photography, you're able to, there's such an art that can be very independent, right? So in the sense that some people, their photography art is more in how they capture the photo, right? And they don't do a ton of editing. And then there's some people that edit the shit out of it. And that's, and at the end of the day, both of those people have a unique photo that they're sharing with the world. And like, I don't think that it's right or wrong either way. I think that there's a way to over edit a photo.
Think that's what I was going to say, because I see people take pictures of stuff and they'll crank the exposure and like put all the filters on it.
Yeah.
And they're like, what an amazing photo. And it's like, that doesn't look real. It looks fake as shit. And it's covered in, but people just think it's amazingly edited. Cause I do edit. I could care less what it looks like on the camera.
Yeah.
Like, as long as if it's in focus, I'll fix it in post. But I don't want you to really notice unless I do a vignette. I mean, that's about it. Other than that, I don't really want you to notice. I want my color scheme to be correct. The palettes to be nice, warm temperatures, or I'll shoot a lot dark. I like dark colors.
Yeah.
But I need to pull the ribs off, and you got to leave in like 30 minutes. We have 2 other things to film. So
yeah. Little public service announcement.
Yeah.
If you get professional photos from your photographer, there's 2 things. One thing that you should always do, and one thing you should never do. Thing you should always do: tag your photographer, even if you paid for it, like, and whatever, right? Like, it helps them get the word out.
Mhm.
That's like the best way to get word of mouth. The thing you should never do, never freaking put a filter on a
No.
photographer's artwork that they
Yeah.
gave you.
And they all do it.
If you want to know the number one thing that pisses a photographer off that spent 45 minutes editing that photo is for you to put a shitty freaking sepia filter over
Put a
it.
Kelvin filter, and I've had to do that. I've had people tag us and stuff that I took photos of, and they put a filter on it and then tagged us and thanked us for the amazing shot. And then I'm like, wow, you put a lot of filtering on that.
Yeah,
I have to go say it because I know that photographers will see it and be like, he did that.
I've gone back to people before that not only put a filter on it but turn the grain up.
Oh yeah,
and it doesn't look
It's
right
pixelated
anymore.
as fuck.
It looks
Yeah.
pixelated,
Yeah.
or they cropped it or whatever, and it just doesn't look right. And I always tell them, like, listen, if you want it different, just tell me. Like,
Yeah.
we can work through it. But like,
yeah, I can fix it for you.
because then when you back to rule number 1, like, always tag your photographer. The other thing with that is when you tag your photographer and
It's
it
a
looks like
shitty photo.
and it looks like crap now.
Yeah,
Like, now
you're actually hurting me.
you're actually hurting me. So like, do us a favor, like, just work with your photographer. Like, none of us are, well, okay, most of us are not assholes, right? Like, we want the best product to go out. Like, we are not purposely going to give you a photo you don't want. So like, communicate.
Yeah,
I know that's hard in today's age, but just communicate.
Tag your photographer.
don't edit the photo.
Don't edit after they've done.
Yes.
Don't
Easy enough.
crop if they were free photos
And
and they're
don't crop the
watermark.
fucking
Don't
watermark.
fucking crop the watermark out.
Yeah.
That shit drives me to the
I
moon.
had a page do that to me one time, and I was like, come
We've
on,
had,
man.
that's the reason we're not for hire for photography anymore, because I take it too personally.
Yeah.
All right, thanks everybody for listening.
Bye.
Good talk, guys. Appreciate you.